Hello, viewers. Welcome to My Environment, My Future, a platform that is here to bring awareness to everything that has to do with the environment, climate change, land degradation, and many more. With me, your host, Odala Piri. On today's episode, we are talking about the environment, and in particular, we're going to talk about electronic waste. Joining us today to talk about electronic waste is Mr. Toa. Mr. Toa, welcome.
Thank you for having me. My
Thank
name
you.
is Toa Chilongo.
Okay.
I am the co-founder of TCH eWaste,
Okay.
and I'm happy to be invited on this platform so that we can have this conversation on electronic waste and waste management.
Yeah, thank you. So just as our topic for today, electronic waste and the environment, in the shortest and the briefest words, what would you say electronic waste is? How would you define electronic waste
Yeah.
in general? Yeah.
Electronic waste, as we say, but a shortcut e-waste. Electronic waste is anything electric and electronic equipment that has come to the end of life. So obsolete electronic and electronic waste, such examples as laptops, phones. In industries, obviously, in the office setup,
Yeah.
we have laptops, computers, home setup, we've got decoders, DVDs, remotes, chargers, phones, anything electronic
Okay,
in
thank
a
you,
nutshell.
thank you.
Yes.
So you said you're from TCH, and I'm sure there are viewers out there who don't know what TCH is about. But since we're talking about electronic waste, in brief, can you just tell us what exactly does TCH do? But I'm sure it does electronic waste management and all. But for the viewers out there who have no idea what TCH does, just give us a little bit info about what TCH does in general.
Um, TCH, I'm going to give you a little background. TCH, we started the company in 2018.
Okay.
We were fortunate enough that we had partners like IDC where we introduced the company, the concept of electronic waste management. We found out that there was no solution to the disposing of all electronics. Fortunately, we were guided by Zema and Zicta, who guided us in getting the right licensing. We launched the company in 2019, subsequently started business or operations in, end of 2019, early 2020.
Okay.
So far, it has been, obviously, we had our challenges, but it's been great. There's a lot of awareness that we've been trying to promote. So, TCH eWaste, we basically are we are the first in the value chain of electronic waste management. So we're the collectors, and then we dismantle. And then we have a partner in South Africa called AST. They are the ones who've guided us on how to manage electronic waste. And because of all the different components of electronic waste, and which will definitely, go deeper into in explanations. We have a component of where we've got a printed circuit boards, which we actually export to AST in South Africa because we don't have yet the technology in Zambia, to recycle or dispose of the printed circuit boards. So far we've done quite well. I think we've reached over 100 tons in general waste, but we'll definitely explain the different type of waste so that we can give you the actual quantities later.
Okay. So categorizing electronic waste, thank you for talking about circuit boards, you talked about printers, you talked about monitors, and so on. What exactly would somebody describe as electronic waste? For example, let's say I have a computer at home. Maybe it doesn't work here and there, but then I still use it. When exactly can I call this thing and say, okay, now I can categorize this as waste? Because me, for example, I'm quite a hoarder. I have certain things or computers, I have laptops that I used to use at some point. But then just because sometimes it goes on, it goes off, I still hold on to it. You get my point?
Yeah.
So now what exactly would you say, okay, I think this can be categorized as waste and I need to let it go?
But from the definition itself, electronic waste,
Yeah.
when we say it's always electronic or electrical equipment that has come to the end of life. So the moment your computer, your phone dies, there's no. So the two things you can do as a company. So when we collect the electronic waste, which is electronic or electrical equipment which has died, which you cannot use anymore.
Yeah.
instead of throwing it in the bin, or then that's where we come in to give a solution.
Okay.
So we collect the electronic waste, and then because of who we are, and as human beings, as you said, we're hoarders,
Yeah,
and we're also natural recyclers as Africans. Because every time you throw a mattress or a bin, somebody will collect it and use it for something
yeah, exactly.
else. Yes. So what we generally do is we collect the electronic waste. We test it to see if it's actually working, if it can be repaired.
If you can, okay.
Because we also believe in the reuse of electronic waste. Before we dispose of it, we have to see if we can reuse it.
Okay.
Whether we can fix the component or use spare parts to use it to fix another component. Because the only time we want to dispose of the electronic waste when the whole entire system is not working, it's completely down.
Thank you so much for that. And in what you said, you talked about recycling. You said the use of, there are certain components that you actually have to test the waste that comes in. And then if it can be fixed, you can fix it. But then if not, you're going to take it in boards. And I'm really trying to understand it, as the viewers are also trying to understand it. But then in a situation where has there been any situation where you as TCH have collected waste from, I don't know where exactly, but you've collected waste, and then you as TCH yourselves have used that waste around the warehouse or around your offices? Have you tried to recycle those waste that came in, and then you have used them yourselves?
As I explained, from every component which comes in, we always try to see if it's workable, it can be reused. Because we've got this a strategy which is called ITAM, IT Asset Management and IT Asset Disposal. So ITC Asset Management, we get electronic waste, test, see which components are working, and then we reuse. Yes, we've had a lot of equipment, even air cons which have come in, and we've actually reused because we don't believe in throwing away electronics or electronic waste which is working. Obviously, another strategy we always wanted to do is that, because it's also a business at the end of the day, if we find electronic waste which can be reused or sold, because of just generate income, we get to the point where we can actually sell some of the electronic waste. So that's why we have this project where we're partnering up with corporates. You know, corporates want to donate electronic waste or computers. Every 3 years, there's so many companies who receive brand new laptops, and then after 3 years they want to dispose because on their books it has become scrap value. So those laptops, when a corporate company wants to donate it to a school, we come in and then we'll test all the computers, the ones which are working, and then give the school the working ones. At least they should have a 2-year lifeline. And then after that, tell the school that after 3 years or 2 years, TCH will come and collect and dispose of. Instead of corporations just donating, which is called deferred dumping, when you just pass the buck to the next. Yes, the school will be very happy to receive computers, but you might find out of 10 computers, only 3 are working. And that's what we want to stop. So we will definitely test, make sure they work. We do that I know companies want to do corporate responsibility. They go there, they donate on behalf of them. We can say Airtel. We come there, we donate, we see the ones which are working. 3 years later, we come and collect and dispose of electronic waste. So that is one of our policies that we actually do.
Oh, okay. Your emphasis was on corporates bringing in their electronic waste, computers, schools, and all. Is there a situation also where I'm not from a corporate background, but then I have waste in my home? Is there a situation where somebody who is just minor has come to your warehouse or where TCH is located and brought a particular amount of waste, not really huge amounts, but then like a particular amount of waste? Is there also that privilege for somebody who can also bring small amounts of waste?
Yes, I'll show you a model. I'll definitely explain that. So what we do is that we have the corporate, and we've got what we call the walk-ins, but the land pickers. So what we've done is that from the corporates, we actually charge for us to dispose of the electronic waste. And the money that comes from that income, we encourage the communities to go to the landfills or go to the markets, the repair shops, computer repair shops, and they bring electronic waste. In fact, if you see the numbers, those are the regular people, the ones who go to the markets, to the landfills to pick up all the electronic waste. And we give them some sort of incentive, but we give them a financial incentives. with the pickers, because for them, especially the lower class, it's a survival, and they're doing quite well, but at the same time, they're cleaning the environment. But with the corporates, we want them to donate, not to donate, sorry, we charge them to collect all the electronic waste so that we can dispose on their behalf or reuse or donate with them. But obviously, we have the strategy. That's why we have different pickup points. We have, because in the whole business model of electronic waste management, the biggest cost is always on the transportation. So we are trying to help, especially lower income homes, that we place certain what we call containers, and we've got one in Chilenje, we've got one in Matero, and then you can go there and drop off your e-waste and you get an incentive. We're also trying to start, what we're going to do is we're going to start an e-waste drive where we will go to every mall, maybe announce it a month or two before that we're coming there. And we've partnered up with Zicta and Zema. What will happen then is when you bring your electronic waste, we will give you airtime, because we've also partnered up with the telcos. So we'll weigh your e-waste and then we'll give you airtime or data for the electronic waste.
Thank you so much, Mr. Toa. From what you have said, it's clear we have a whole lot to learn and unpack about electronic waste. So on that note, we're going to go on a very short break, viewers, and make sure you don't go away. Welcome back, viewers, and if you're just joining us, we're still here in studio with Mr. Toa from TCH, an electronic waste management company. So Mr. Toa, as we were earlier talking about, we kept on talking about electronic waste and electronic waste. But then what would you say, what harm does electronic waste have to the environment? What harm does it cause, really?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That is very important. So, I'm going to give you an example of what the components of what every electronic and electrical equipment has. So there are basically three components. We've got the plastic, then we've got the metal, and then we've got what we call the printed circuit board. That's where the ICs and are on. If you open any electronic equipment, which I don't encourage people to do, if you're not a professional, so when you open it, there's always what we call a printed circuit board. So the plastic part, we know plastic is harmful to the environment. Fortunately, we have partners with Eco Units, Lafarge, formerly known Lafarge. So the plastic component goes to them. What they do with it, they shred it and then they use it as fuel to power up the plant. Because I know the different type of plastics which are there, and that's been the best partnership we've actually formed currently. They use they burn it, incinerate it, and then they extract 40% oil from the plastic. And then after the ashes are used as an ingredient to make the cement. Then we've got the copper wire. We've got the metal. Metal is big. It's a big business in Zambia. The scrap metal dealers. I think the company in Kafue, Trade Kings, have got a big plant in Zambia. That's where most of the scrap metal goes to. But we've also got the small dealers. We always like to work with the smaller dealers who come in, because we want to support them as a small business as well. And then we focus on the printed circuit board. So now the printed circuit board that's where the recycling actually happens. That's what our core business is. So the printed circuit board has got lead and mercury, which is harmful to the soil. Because once you put that in the soil over a long period of time, because of corrosion and the weather, if you throw it in the bin, what we mostly do in the bin, or we dig a pit in the backyard and then we burn it. Unfortunately, that's a very, very bad way of disposing of electronic waste. So when you throw it in the bin or you bury it in the pit in the background, in the backyard, because of rain over a period of time, when there's mercury, lead seeps into the soil, and obviously it contaminates the soil. So it means the plants we eventually eat, and then which will cause cancer, or it also seeps down to the water table, which also pollutes our water systems. And in Zambia we have a lot of borehole systems. So it becomes, and then once you drink that water, long term, I know it doesn't happen in a short period of time, we will start experiencing stunted growth, just cancer because of the contamination of our water and our soil to the environment. So that is one of the biggest things. So that's why we as TCH are really making an awareness so that whenever you want to dispose of electronic waste, we have the solution, and get in contact with us. Yes.
Indeed, you do have a solution. You do have a solution. So based on you saying you have a solution, to the general public, to the community per se, how would they benefit from bringing electronic waste to you? You tried to make us understand the effects, the ripple effects, long-term effects, and short-term effects. But aside from the effects, of course, as a community or communities out there, how do you think they can benefit from bringing their electronic waste to you?
Yeah, thanks for that. So as I explained earlier, we have what we call incentive or financial incentive to the lower income homes. So when you bring your electronic waste, I can give you an example. There's a lady who came with almost 200 kgs of the little printed circuit boards from a charger. So that's 200 kgs of that. So just imagine how many chargers she had to open, which was also a wrong thing because she was supposed to bring the entire charger
thing, yeah.
because we don't know what she did with the plastic. But I think she knows where the other players for the plastics.
Of course.
Yeah, so she might have, so that happened. So the incentive we give them the financial incentive. We just weigh and then see what they have, and it's encouraging for them, and subsequently it helps their families. With the corporate, as I said, with the corporates, we charge them. We have to charge them because they have because Zema has, I'm sure there's a law, a regulation, which is called Extended Producer Responsibility, which means that if Airtel or Zema or TCH themselves, when they supply computers, they have to be responsible on how you dispose of the computers. So that's why we extend, the producer has to be responsible. So that's why we charge corporates. We are giving them a solution. And then what we do after we dispose of the electronic waste, we send a record of disposal to Zema and to the company saying that so if they find that there's a computer, say where there's TCH, but then we had already sent a record of, so we're going to be liable, held responsible and penalties, and that's where we hope Zema comes in and charges us. So that's why we encourage the corporate that we have a solution, we can dispose of the electronic waste correctly.
Okay. We're going to go on a very short break, and when we come back, we're going to continue with the conversation. Welcome back. You're watching My Environment, My Future. So still with the conversation, Mr. Toa, what would you say as an electronic waste management company that you are, what would you say are some of the challenges that you face in terms of operation, clientele, for example? What are the topmost challenges that you face as a company?
Yeah, look, since electronic waste management is a new concept, well, globally and in Zambia per se, as in this is the field we're working in. So we have been facing a lot of challenges with policy, government policy, because our partner Zema, luckily we've been working with Zema and Zicta to help with the regulation around e-waste management. Because what we've discovered is that most companies have their own policies on how to dispose of electronic waste. So we're asking the policymakers that we make a blanket policy or regulation, a law, that this is the way electronic waste should be disposed of. I know we were privy of taking part last year, I think during COVID, we're privy to be invited to take part in the committee on just to draft a regulation around electronic waste management, and we're happy to say that we contributed to it. So we're hoping maybe in the next year or so there's going to be a blanket policy on how to dispose of electronic waste. Yes, obviously with the low-income homes, that hasn't been a problem because of the incentives. So there's never really been a big issue. But we also want that government, as it starts giving penalties to people who are disposing of. Obviously, we've already got the EPR, but we just want them to be given more power to enforce, and penalties should be stiffer for companies or corporations who are disposing of electronic waste in the wrong way.
Okay. So apart from the policies, and then in terms of operations, maybe because you talked about most of the waste that you collect, you export it. So is there any other challenge, like in exportation,
Look, you have to get the licensing part obviously with ZEMA, our regulators, they've really helped us in guiding us with the regulation. So on policy, that's the biggest one. Operations, as we say, because of it's a manual. You know what happens when you get electronic waste? You have to dismantle it. So it's a very tedious operation. And then we also have an issue of data protection. When companies are disposing of their computers, they have sensitive information. So what we usually do is we destroy the hard drives on site or at the warehouse. But if, say, a school wants or a corporation wants to donate to a school, there's another method we use where we format the hard drives, and then we've got this high-level software. But the problem, that takes a lot of time, because almost just to format a couple of hard drives, it's 3-4 hours.
Okay.
Yes. So that's labor-intensive, one, and then it becomes expensive.
Yeah.
So, these are the options we would work with. So in a matter of obviously licensing as well, and we also want to encourage, other players. We want to be more players who are dealing with electronic waste. So we want the licensing to become a little bit cheaper so that these small cooperatives, the small guy can also get the license. So ZEMA has to look into that, the pricing on just getting the license for electronic waste management. Okay. Yeah. We have a policy now. What we've done, we have this project of where we've got the first team we employed, and 2 of them or 3 of them are actually managing the containers. So we're also uplifting our community and also helping with jobs. And we want a lot of companies or a lot of players. We want to pick up points everywhere. And then we shouldn't be going around picking the waste. We want the waste to come to us. Yes, that's so we should. Ours should be the last stop. And as we say, and we always laugh about this. Said, before they used to say Zambia's landlocked. Actually, we're not landlocked. We're land-linked. So imagine if we actually we're encouraging government to give us funding so that we can set up the factory here where we can do the final recycling of the electronic waste. Because this process, I didn't mention earlier, it's also called urban mining. Okay. So instead of going, as I said, the printed circuit board has the lead, the mercury, but it also has good components. It's got gold, it's got iron, it's got palladium, so that instead of us, so that's why they call it urban mining, through a process of electrolysis. So what happens is you will get the good stuff, the gold, the iron, and then the bad stuff, the mercury and the lead, is disposed of correctly. Then the gold and iron and the copper you get there, instead of going down to get it as ore, we will extracting it from the electronic components we had before. Yes, it's not a lot. So that's why electronic waste business, it's a volume business. So that's why we need all the corporates, we need every partner, so that we can collect all that electronic waste, so that it can become worthwhile for us as well as a business, because at the end of the day, it is a business we're running. Yeah. Okay.
You said it can also be called urban mining.
Yes.
But then in terms of linear or circular economy, where do you think electronic waste management can fall?
Yeah, so what we've done, and thank you for bringing up the linear and circular economy. So, the two, in simple terms, the linear economy is you produce, you use, you dispose. So there's no value added in there. But now a circular economy, where that's what we say we like to reuse. So we produce, it comes from the mine or from the ore. You get the ore, you make the product. So that was the circular. You make the product, we use the product. We try to recycle or reuse the product. Try to reuse the components. If that doesn't happen, we recycle it, and then it makes the product again. Instead of going now to the ore, we've actually taken the spare parts or the ore or the components with the gold, the copper has been reused and then back to the factory. So that's how it becomes a circular economy. So it is the manufacture, use, recycle, back to the manufacturer. Yes, so that's a circular economy, and it adds value there. So there's the transportation, so there is money. It ended up being a business at the end of the day. So the recyclers get some money, the pickers get some money. The companies, instead of, it's cheaper to produce, instead of going to get the ore from there. And then subsequently we save the environment. We don't have to dig the copper and the gold and the lead from the ground anymore.
That's true. That's true. Thank you very much for that. So, Mr. Toa, you talked about, we also asked you about the operations in TCH and your warehouse. We actually had an opportunity to visit the warehouse ourselves, and we talked to the operations manager there, Mr. Chad. So this is what we got from Mr. Chad from TCH, who gave us an insight of what exactly TCH does to the electronic waste that comes into their warehouse.
This is where we receive all our goods, electronic waste. They come in all sorts. As you can see on the outside, Liquid Telecom actually gave us, we were getting rid of the old communication towers. So this came as part of that. We had to sort through, remove the PCBs, especially those that are dangerous to the hazardous, which are considered as hazardous waste. This is from your CRT TVs. You can't break them up because they've got some chemicals inside there. Mercury is found inside there, the dust is a bit of lead dust and phosphorus in there. That is actually, if it goes into the air, it's not very good for our health. This section is also part of the receiving bay. These are some of the components that we received after stripping, removing the electronics. This is, the whole section essentially is receiving and sorting. We receive and sort the items. In our business, we are trying to make use of, before destroying it or taking it to the end of life, completely considering end of life, we try and find use for them.
Tulichita separate palama capacitors, palama plastics, then palina ma electronics boards. So natuma copper. TCH electronics waste iletwa kwa sana fye umikalile Yesu tulekwanisha okukitalenti amayanda tulekwanisha kutwala kona abana besu ku masukulu.
TCH twambire kubomba nabe na mwali mu 2020 pa 1 January fyo twambire company, so otherwise company naitwa sana.
Quite an insightful tour we had at TCH warehouse with Mr. Chad. I'm sure the viewers also, you have learned quite a number of things about electronic waste. So Mr. Toa, time cannot allow us to continue talking and talking because we do have a lot to talk about in relation to electronic waste. What are your last remarks?
Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. So our last remarks, obviously we're going to start with the policymakers. As Zema and Zector, who are our partners, want to continue with the change of policy and just enforce it around electronic waste management. Secondly, we would like to encourage all households that there is a solution in Zambia for disposal, the correct way of disposing of electronic waste. We have, as I mentioned, we have a drop-off points in Matero and in Chilenje, and our main warehouse in Mwembeshi Road in Chinika area. There is a solution. We want to work with all the partners, the corporates. And thank you for having and hosting us on this beautiful show.
Thank you so much, Mr. Toa, for making time and interacting with us. We hope that you are going to honor our invitation again to talk about electronic waste and in general anything that has to do with the environment. So unfortunately, viewers, this is where we come to the end of our show, and we hope that you're going to join us next time because we are here to give awareness in relation to the environment. And don't forget, this was My Environment, My Future with me, your host, Odala Piri. Thank you.